walks in his ways. I will lift up my eyes to the hills from whence comes my help. I will lift up my voice to the Lord, singing loud, for the Lord is my shade, is the shade upon my right hand, and the sun shall not smite me by day, nor the moon by night. Blessed is the one who loves the Lord. Louder, louder, and walks in his ways. Louder, louder, da day. Louder, louder, dee da dee day. All of my day.
השיר שהלווים היו אומרים בבית המקדש, היו אומרים בבית המקדש. ביום הראשון היו אומרים לאדוני ארץ מלאה תבל ויושם בידה.
בשני היו אומרים גדול אדוני ומהולל מאוד בעיר אלוהינו הר קודשו.
השלישי היו אומרים אלוהים ניצב בדעתנו בקרב אלוהים
שכולו שבת שבת.
You've trained them. Oh, and when you need to take a breath, Hallelu el bekocho, hallelu birkia
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. Good Shabbos.
Shabbat Shalom.
Loschen meins ist Yiddish, voll mit Pashtes und rachfestig mit Kaddish, warm wie die Sonne, warm wie die Sonne.
Hemshech is mein Schie, Kiem is mein Lied, mein Gesang Aliyah zu dem Mensch Unid.
Mein Gesang Aliyah zu dem Mensch Unid.
Menschen unlescheunes, loschen
Page 5 in the program. Page 5 in the program.
Menschlichkeit, die Kreuz ist, sing zu ihr Unbench, sing zu ihr Unbench.
Völker in Harmonie, Liebschaft zwischen sich, strahlige Symphonie und in ihr ruhig ich.
Sag
Siddur.
Shabbos, Shabbos, Shabbos. Soll sein, Shabbos. Shabbos soll sein, Shabbos soll sein. Shabbos auf der ganzen Welt. Shabbos soll sein, Shabbos soll sein. Shabbos auf der ganzen Welt. Yai, bye, 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 yai. Shabbos auf der ganzen
Welt. Good Shabbos, everybody. Shabbat Shalom, and welcome to CBST's Friday night service for Parshat Shoftim. And tonight, in this service, which we started some years ago to honor the memory of those Soviet Yiddish writers and scientists and artists who were killed secretly, executed on the night of August 12th into August 13th after a fake trial accused of espionage, part of Stalin's anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish campaign, which resulted in the murder of so many Jewish leaders in the former Soviet Union. But this night itself of August 12th to 13th, when these 13 were killed, is a night that has really been forgotten in most of Jewish life. And so some years ago, it's something that I care so deeply about. We have a Yiddishist as our music director, and we're thrilled tonight to have one of the greatest Yiddish singers here in the United States, here in New York. CBST member Amanda Siegel will be singing some of the Yiddish tonight, along with our cantorial intern, Sam Rosen. So we wanted tonight to celebrate the Yiddish that came out specifically of what's the former Soviet Union, both celebrating the composers and some of the poets, all of whom were killed in the course of time. Not all of the composers, but many of whom were killed either in the purges of the 30s or then in the purges of the late 40s, culminating in the Night of the Murdered Poets. It's the translation of the Yiddish name for this night, August 12th, the Night of the Murdered Poets. And like so many things at CBST, we want to make sure that we take the culture of our people, which has been under attack. We make sure that the culture remains vibrant and alive in our community. And we don't only remember the heinous acts of the anti-Semites and the Jew haters in the world, but we celebrate the culture of our people. And it is on us to make sure that we live this culture, we love this culture, we give it life, and not only to bemoan the heinous crimes against our people. So tonight, throughout the service, we will be singing Yiddish, much of which was written, some by the poets themselves who were killed that night, and other poets from the former Soviet Union. And I read these words of this beautiful Yiddish poem that we began tonight's service. It's on page 5 of the program, and I urge you for tonight's service, if you're at home, to link to the program, because a lot of material for tonight's service is found in the program. The words for tonight: my tongue is Yiddish, simplicity itself and expansive, opulent, warm as the sun. Continuance is my privilege, survival is my song, my singing exaltation of mankind and of Jew. People and tongues, a person is their tongue, their language. Humanity is the crown. Sing to it in praise. Nations sing in harmony, sharing in their love. Resplendent symphony of which I am a part. Lamp still not extinguished. Behold, it still glows. Yiddish is my tongue. Yiddish is my song. So tonight we will, throughout the service, as I said, be exploring the power of Yiddish poetry, of Yiddish music. And we continue with a very beautiful poem by Moshe Kolbach, who was a great Yiddish poet who was himself killed in 1937 as part of the purges that Stalin did against the great Yiddish poets. And let's try and for a moment understand that. If these names are unfamiliar to you, and I imagine most of the names of Yiddish poets are unfamiliar to most American Jews, try to imagine that the names would be Robert Frost or Adrian Rich or Emily Dickinson. This is the level of the writers that we're talking about who were executed, murdered by Stalin. We're not talking about, just to understand the level of culture that was under attack. It's as if the greatest American poets were rounded up through the year in a very brief time, really from the early 30s to 1952, with a break for World War II. When the Nazis were attacking the Jews, the Soviets stopped. So just keep that in mind as you hear, maybe you'll hear these names for the first time. I urge you to take this program home with you, to read more about all of them, to explore their poetry. And if you're at home, print the program out from tonight's service. It's a valuable piece. And learn, explore. This is the best way we can honor the memories of these greats of our people. So this poem called Die Tefillah, the prayer. The prayer of a poor man was concealed, but for God he poured out his heart. Why is my life so tormented, O God? Wherever I stand, I am in the way. Wherever I go, I bring the odor of darkness. I envy the bird. It is better off, and the soil, its lot, is best of all. What should I do with my hand? I don't need it. What should I do with my heart? I have no use for it. Die Tefillah, page 4 of the program.
Die Telefon Ohren an, wo sie's verteilt geworden und vergott tut ausgießen sein Herz. Vor was wird man so gepeinigt, Gott? Wo ich steh, bin ich zu viel verraten. Und wo ich geh, trug ich mit dem Reach von dem Finsternis. Bin ich mit dem Vögel, wo sie ist besser von uns und dem Leben. Wo sie ist besser von allem. Was soll ich tun mit meiner Hand? Was ist mir übrig? Und mit meinem Herz, was ist mir übrig?
The composer of that is our featured composer who was born in Belarus, and he was trained at the Brodsky Synagogue in Kiev, and then he immigrated to the United States in 1914 and lived here in the United States, where he worked as a vocal coach, accompanist, and piano teacher. He was one of the most active Jewish musicians of this century in the United States. He organized and conducted hundreds of people in the workmen's circle choirs throughout the United States. He was the music director of Central Synagogue in New York City for more than 40 years. He served on the faculties of the Schools of Sacred Music, both at HUC and JTS. He composed more than 300 works in all genres and often called the Schubert of the Yiddish art song, one of the greatest composers. And now we turn to light these Shabbos candles. As we light these candles, acknowledging our link in a long chain of traditions and not losing that chain and protecting it and loving it. Sabrina, may I ask you to light the Shabbos candles tonight? And the blessings for the Shabbos candles are on page 38.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של שבת.
And please stand if you are able as we welcome in the angels of peace to be among us. Shalom Aleichem, page 40 of the Siddur.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu li l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzechem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Please be seated. Wish good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom to people around you. And as is our custom, now that we're in our space again, I'd like to welcome anybody who's new to our building or new to CBST. So is there anybody here in our sanctuary tonight who's here for the first time? Please, would you introduce yourself? Tell us where you're from. Isaac from where? North Carolina. And where do you live now? Astoria. Welcome. Joined online last November, but it's the first time in the sanctuary. Well, welcome. Wonderful to have you. Yay. Welcome. I saw another hand over here. Yes. Kathy from Brooklyn, New York. Oh, beautiful. This is Amanda's cheerleading squad here. Wonderful. Another Astoria. Wonderful. More of Amanda's friends. Wonderful to have you here tonight. Thank you so much for coming. Anybody else new? Yes. Yes, you've been in their song. I don't recognize you with your mask on. Oh, beautiful. Somebody who's been in the Psalms class, but first time here. Where do you live? Upper West Side. Wonderful. So happy to have you. Yes. You joined also. Wonderful. Welcome. Hi, Melanie, Sherry's guest. And where do you live? Indiana. Welcome. Welcome. My wife is in Indiana today, actually. Or maybe she's in Cincinnati today. She was in Indiana tomorrow. Or maybe she's in Indiana tomorrow and Cincinnati today. I don't know. But welcome. Wonderful to have you here. I think this is one of the features of this time, are that we have new members who have been members for sometimes months and months and maybe even a year, and yet not in the building ever. So this, or for the first time. So it's very happy to have you. Who else is there? Somebody else? Yes, a lot of new people. Wonderful. Please tell us your name and where you're from.
Hi, I'm Sandra. I'm from Switzerland. I live in Brooklyn, and I'm here in Pakistan.
Sandra from Switzerland lives in Brooklyn. And what was the last part?
Here in Pakistan.
Ah, wonderful. Wonderful to have you. Yes. Uri from Tel Aviv, living in Chelsea. Wonderful to have you. I'm so happy you're here for the first time. Welcome.
My name is Ronnie. I'm from New Orleans. And,
Ronnie from New Orleans, is that what you said?
Yes.
Oh, welcome.
And for 4 days now, I've lived on the Upper West Side.
And have lived on the Upper West Side for 4 days. Well, welcome to New York. Does that mean you're moving to New York?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. Well, welcome. Did I get everybody who's new? Fantastic. So, of course, CBST long-timers, if you're seated near somebody who's a new-timer, make sure you're welcoming. Be nice, you know. It is a little weird. Everybody is wearing masks, but we're used to it by now. And I forgot to say at the beginning, of course, those of us who are leading, the 4 of us who are leading, we're all vaxxed in the building, of course. And the 4 of us who are leading without masks, we've all been tested. We get tested so that we could be here without our masks and be able to lead without masks. But thanks everybody for observing the protocols so we could, please God, be here, at least some of us in person. So we continue with Kabbalat Shabbat, starting on page 52. Page 54.
ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ותגל הארץ. ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ותגל הארץ. ירם הים, ירם הים, ירם הים ומלואו. ירם הים, ירם הים, ירם הים ומלואו. ישמחו השמיים, השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ותגל הארץ.
Page 62, please stand in body or spirit for Psalm 29.
מזמור לדוד,
Please be seated. Page 66, Lecha Dodi.
Shabbat nekavela, lecha dodi, likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekavela, shamor וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה, לך דודי, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה, לך דודי, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה, מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה, קומצאים מתוך ההפכה, רב לך שבט בעמק הבכה, והוא יחמור עלייכם, לך דודי, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה, התנערי מעפר, קומי לבשי בגדי תפארת לחמי, על יד בן ישי בית הלחמי, קורבן אל נפשי גאה, לך דודי, בני שבת נקבלה, התעוררי, כי האורך קומי אורי, אורי שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך יגלה, לך דודי, לקראת כלה, בני שבת ולא תקעני, מה תשתוכחי ומה תהמי, אך יחסו עניי עמי, ונבנתה עירתי לה, לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, והיינו למשיסה שוזייך, ורחקו כל מבלייך, יסיס עלייך אלוהייך, כמסוס לב ואהבה Shabbat mekabela. ימין ושמאל תפרוזי ואת אדוני תעריצי. יעניש תפזי ונשמחה ונגילה לך אדוני לקראת קלה והנה שבת שבת מקבלה. אוי ושלום עטרת שכינה גם בשמחה ובצהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה והנה שבת שבת מקבלה. אדוני לקראת קלה והנה שבת שבת נקבלה.
Please be seated. Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbat, Psalm 92 on page 72. Every week this Psalm 92 comes to us as a gift. Please God, let us breathe into it to accept this Psalm. It is essential to give thanks, to sing those thanks, to speak those thanks, to do it in the morning when the sun is sharp, to do it at night when it's dark. Ma gadlu masecha, how great is your creation. Those who don't want to will never know it. Those who ignore it won't see it. The righteous will flourish in ways we don't always understand. Let us all find ways to say our expressions of gratitude. Tov lahodot l'Adonai.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת. טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות. טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך
Baruch Hu, page 78. Please rise in body or spirit.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Please be seated. As an interpretive reading for Hamari Varavim, I read this poem translated from Yiddish, a poem by Izzy Charik, who is one of the greatest of poets. He wrote many poems that have become essential to the body of Yiddish poetry. In June 1937, at the same time, as I mentioned before, that Kolbach was arrested and then executed. At 1937, at the peak of his career, he was born in 1898, so he was a very young man. He was arrested and killed later that year as part of that great purges that decimated the Soviet cultural elite, many of whom were Jewish. August. August, I've come to the shtetl on a cool, transparent evening. The dusk is blue. A smiling poignancy ascends like smoke. At dawn, the shtetl rises in a dew. The air is clear and warm, and down from the heights a luscious apple fragrance drifts. The summer haze is airy, light, and the heart turns dense and luscious too. Not long ago I cursed and railed at you, and now you lie before me hushed. I wander in a fume of fruit and blossom, and August lies transparent here and cool.
ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני,
Baruch Shemo.
המעריב ערבי.
Page 86.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו, לשוכבנו וקומנו, נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגע יומם ולילה, יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
We continue with the final two paragraphs ending the Shema individually on page 92 or 93 in the Hebrew or the English.
Adonai Elohechem
Emet. Page 94.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים, זה אלי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך, אדוני ימלוך, לעולם ועד. ונאמר, כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני,
וברוך שמו.
גאל ישראל.
Page 99, please read with me, preparing for the words of Hashkivenu. Help us, O God, to lie down in peace. Teach us that peace means more than quiet. Remind us that if we are to be at peace at night, we must take heed how we live by day. Grant us the peace that comes from honest dealing, so that no fear of discovery will haunt our sleep. Rid us of resentments and hatreds that rob us of the peace we crave. May we inflict no pain, bring no shame, and seek no profit by another's loss. May we live so that we can face the whole world with serenity. May we need feel no remorse at night for what we have done during the day. May we need feel no remorse in the daytime for what we have done during the night. May we lie down in peace tonight and waken tomorrow to a richer and fuller life.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, v'hamidenu malkeinu
Page 102, please stand if you are able.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. איי 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 ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי
The Chatzi Kaddish is on page 104. And immediately afterwards, we go into our time of personal prayer. Personal prayer, but in community. So either daven the words that are in the Siddur, starting on page 106, or the alternative meditation, a Marge Piercy poem on page 124, or take this time for yourselves in whatever way your soul and your heart need tonight. And when you're done with your personal prayers, be seated. Chatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, אמן. בעלמא דברה קירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומייכון, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. בעגלה, בעגלה, ובזמן קריב וימרו, אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה. בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן ועלמה וימרו.
This next Yiddish poem set to music became so ubiquitous that it's became a popular folk song that some just didn't know where it even came from. Written by Moshe Kolbach, who I mentioned earlier in the service. Originally, Kolbach was a poet who focused on writing in Hebrew, but this was his first poem published that he wrote in Yiddish, and it marked a turn in his journey to becoming one of the great Yiddish poets. In the fall of 1916, this poem was published in Vilna's Letztenayas, the publication of poetry there. The poem, written in a folk style, was the prayer of a Jewish soldier separated from his family in his hometown while stationed at the front. Sterndl was set to music, and it has become extremely popular. The words in English are found on page 6 of the Shabbat program. Little star, my blue herald, won't you be a messenger to my village for me? There you'll find my sad and worried wife. Comfort her, bring her light. You will see a little street and then a ditch. That's where you'll find my shack. Alone and forlorn in the dark window, my wife sits sadly and worries. Comfort her, little star. Bring light into the house. Tell her God will show mercy. Ask how are Yankala, Letze, and Livela. Tell them I read and kiss their note. Tell them not to spoil Yankala, but to send him to Cheder, for he has been spoiled enough. Let him learn to recite the Kaddish properly. Who knows? God will be merciful. Sterndl.
Sterndl, Sterndl, blauer Stafette, sei mir a Schliach und fall in mein Städtele. Sei mir a Schliach und fall in mein Städtele. Sterndl, Sterndl, blauer Stafettele, sei mir a Schliach und fall in mein Städtele. Sen Vesta Gessele, noch dem Magribele, dorten gefind sich mein Chore Vestibele. Dorten gefind sich mein Chore Vestibele. Sterndl, Sterndl, blauer Stafettele, sei mir a Schliach und fall in mein Städtele.
Und allein bei der finsterer Scheibe sitzt dort vertreuert und eiget mein Weibele. Sitzt dort vertreuert und eiget mein Weibele.
Sterndl, Sterndl, blauer Stafettele, sei mir a Schliach und fall in mein Städtele. Drehst ihr, du Sterndl, leicht in a Stub rein, sog ihr, der Eberster wird sich merachem sein. Sog ihr, der Eberster wird sich merachem sein. Sterndl, Sterndl, blauer Stafettele, sei mir a Schliach und fall in mein Städtele.
Frag, was mach Jankel, Letze und Rivere, sog sie ich lehn und ich kusch sehr Brivele, sog, dass ich lehn und kusch sehr Brivele.
Sterndl, Sterndl, blauer Stafettele, sei mir a Schliach und fall in mein Städtele. Sog sie as Jankelen soll men nicht schaben, geben in Cheder genug ihm zu balven, geben in Cheder genug ihm zu balven. Sterndl, Sterndl, blauer Staffelte, sei mir a Schliach und fall in mein Städtele. Soll sich auslernen, Kaddish zwar zu sein, Efter, men weiß nicht, nur Gott wird mir Rachen sein. Efter, men weiß nicht, nur Gott wird mir Rachen sein. Sterndl, Sterndl, blauer Staffelte, sei mir a Schliach und fall in mein Städtele. Shalom, shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei Tevel. Shalom, shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Amen. Oseh shalom, shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei Tevel. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Amen.
Wow, that was gorgeous. Thank you, the three of you. Thank you. Mishaberach Avotenu v'Imotenu. Sarah, Rivka, Leah, Rachel, Bilhah, Zilpah, v'Avotenu, Avram, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov. May the one who has blessed our ancestors bless all who are ill. Bless those who are ill, sick of body or mind or spirit. And tonight in our healing prayers we hold as a community, Jonathan Adler, Michael Bruce Berman, Shana Doba Batbina, Ron Cohen, Annika Cooper, Eddie Ehrlich Kudler, Jay Fisher, Alan Friedman, Alan Glassberg, Yaakov ben Golda v'Shlomo, Yehuda Aryeh ben Golda v'Yitzchak, Myra Jaffe Galst, Bruce Leipzig, Murray Lichtenstein, Aryeh Leib Halevi ben Machia, Rivka bat Miriam Malka v'Yidel, Ari Montz, Alan Pearl, Susan Ricken, Liam Matthew Bar, Rose Lewis, Barbara Rosenfeld, Batya Rachel, Bat Ruth Sarah, Randy Sarakoff, Adriana Tanania, Urvashi Vad, Nechama Bat Yaakov Uvernice, Yehudit Bat Yirmiyahu. We include in our healing prayers tonight all those currently afflicted with COVID-19 in the CBST community and at large. Please say out loud any other names for whom you're praying for healing tonight.
David Rosen.
May those who will not be healed on this earth be blessed with nights free from suffering and days filled with peace. May God grant strength and comfort to all those who are caring for the sick. And may God help all of us to find hope and courage. May all who are ill be surrounded by the love of friends, loving companions, families, and community. And let us say, Amen. Prayer for our country is in our program. We'll read the bottom half together. Please join me for the bottom half of the page. Source of all life, guide our leaders with righteousness, strengthen their hearts, but keep them from hardening, that they may use their influence and authority to speak truth and act for justice. May all who dwell in this country share in its bounty, enjoy its freedoms, and be protected by its laws. May this nation use its power and wealth to be a voice for justice, peace, and equality for all who dwell on earth. May we be strong and have courage, to be bold in our action and deep in our compassion, to discern when we must listen and when we must act, to uproot bigotry, intolerance, misogyny, racism, discrimination, and violence in all its forms, to celebrate the many faces of God reflected in the wondrous diversity of humanity, to welcome the stranger and the immigrant, to honor the gifts of those who seek refuge and possibility here, as they have since before this nation was born. Let justice well up like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. And let us say, Amen. Page 138, Kaddish Shalem.
יתקדש ויתקדש שמי רבה, אמן. ועלמא דברה קילותי וימליך מלכותי, בחיי חונה ויומי חונה ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה בזמן קריב ואימרו, אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם עולם לעלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה, בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ואימרו, אמן. תקבל צלות הון ובאות הון דכל ישראל קודם אבוהון דיבי שמיה ואימרו, אמן. יהי שלום רב מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואימרו, אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו, אמן.
Another powerful and important Yiddish writer, Leib Kvitko, wrote an Alter Niggin, which we'll hear right now, with the music by one of the most famous Yiddish singers who actually was here in the United States for many, many, many years here in New York. Some of you might remember hearing him sing on the radio. He had a great program on the radio for many years, and he had concerts all over. Emil Gorovitz is the composer. Leib Kvitko is another one of the great poets who was killed the night of August 12, 1952. He wrote many different poems. He's well known for a lot of children's poems, and he wrote a lot of Yiddish poems for children. And he was part of a particular Yiddish writers group called the Kiev Group. He was from Ukraine and was killed, as I said, in 1952. And this song, which we'll now hear, has a fabulous, of course, nimshal to it, of course. It's a story of a man who's sent to a fair with money to buy something. He has to buy some ox, and along the way he hears a nigun, a melody from a shepherd, and he forgets his errand and his job to buy something with the money he has, and he stops to ask what such a song would cost, and he pays, and he goes off humming the song, the nigun, the melody. Then he spies another wagon full of musicians who are singing, and he asks them how much their song is worth, and he gives them some more of his money, and on and on and on. So by the time he reaches the market, he's broke. And he comes back empty-handed. And it goes on and on and on. His wife is mad at him, the landlord's mad at him, but he says, as he sings the song, "But there's music. I have this nigun." On page 7, an altar and nigun, the summary of the song, and now by words by Leib Kvitko and the music by Gorvitz.
Oi nacht min jur, schreit aus der Pan zum Schoritz. Na ja, mor Kumarsch und kauf Ochsen dem Poritz. Hot nacht min genommen, das Beitel mit Geld, dem Stock in der Hand und gegangen der Welt. Geht und a Stade der Setz und passt sich liegen und singen an Nigen. Lai, 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 la, la, lai, 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 la, la, lai, 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 la, la, lai, 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 la, la, lai, 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 la, la, lai, 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 la, la, lai, 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 la, la, lai, lai, lai. Und Nachten vergessen in Porzus Rinder, und in Weib und in Kinder. Und tut sie frech, ei, husche de Leid, was kostet das Anliegen bei heimlicher Zeit? Sogen die Pastiche, 7 Triaden tut Nachen wat so und geht mitten in sein Weg. Tralalai, lai, 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 tralalai, lai, 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 tralalai, lai, 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 lalalai, lai, lai. Geht und a Beule der Set und klezmer dort liegen und singen an Lieden. Ai, dai, 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 da, da, dai, 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 ai, dai, dai, da, da, dai, dai, dai. Ai, dai, 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 da, da, dai, 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 ai, dai, dai, da, da, dai, dai, dai. Hot Nachten vergessen in Porzus Rinder und in Weib und in Kinder. Und tut sie frech, ei, freiliche Leid, was kostet das an bei heimlicher Zeit? Sogen die Klezmerler, 13 Triaden tut Nachen wat so und geht mitten in sein Weg. Ist so in Mark gekommen, hört wie schöne Ochsen brummen, nimmt sich Dingen und wieder Dingen und patschen mit die Hand und unter zu springen und abgemacht. Schleppt Reus das Beitel mit Geld, in treißelt ihm ab, a gar nicht aus. So, schreit der Seuche, so lässt mir, klein lässt kriegen. Sie nimmt unser Nachmen die ledige Hand, öffnet das Mäul und singt, sei gebracht uns den Weg, wo seinen Mann, die Matone sich fragt. Beterei, fahren weibelt im Kopf, öffnet das Maul und singt die Mond. Dai, 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 da, da, dai, 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 da, da, dai, 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 da, da, dai, dai, dai. Nimmt das Weibchen vor auf sich reißen, mit der verschämten Mann tut sich schmeißen. Und da kommt der Port und stellt sich weg. Und auf die Ochsen, tut immer frei. Hebt auf, zum Port dem Kopf, öffnet das Maul und singt die Mond. Die Beischofen springt, aber geheim sein Nieder singt. Ai, dai, 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 ai, dai, dai, da, da, dai, 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 ai, dai, dai, da, da, dai, dai, dai. Ai, dai, dai, dai.
Spectacular. Whoa, what a storyteller you are. Thank you, thank you, thank you. There is no better tribute to this culture than to sing it, to learn it, to experience it, and to remember the names. And we're lucky to have in our congregation somebody like Amanda who is so dedicated to Yiddish, to appreciate it deeply, not just as a language of jokes or of dirty words, which for many people that's what Yiddish is, but it's a deep and a profound culture. So in this night, I have a few things to say about this place that we are and about Yiddish. Some of you took a class I taught this past spring, an 8-session class about an introduction to Yiddish literature. I myself started studying Yiddish in the 1970s when I was a college student, and I took, to fulfill my foreign language requirement at Barnard College, Yiddish. Now that's a pretty ridiculous thing on some level, right? My father grew up speaking only Yiddish in his house in the Bronx until he went to kindergarten at age 5, and his mother, my grandmother, never really learned English. But so quickly, because I was to be the American child of the immigrant's child, I didn't learn Yiddish until I went to an Ivy League school, which I could fulfill its foreign language requirement by learning Yiddish. That's how crazy the story of American Jews can be. But in those years, I studied Yiddish very intensively as a college student, and I had one of the great Yiddishists of New York City as my teacher, who some of you know, Mordechai Schechter, and his family is really a pillar family of Yiddishists here in New York. And from him is how I learned about the Night of the Murdered Poets in 1952, because we studied Yiddish poetry. He was a bit of a iconoclast, but stories about Mordechai Schechter are for another day. This parsha, which we study this week when we're observing this commemoration, is the parsha of Shoftim, which literally means judges. And we talked about that in Psalms class this week. Shoftim are about judges. There's a lot in the parsha, but one of the aspects of the Parsha has resulted in maybe the most famous verse in the entire Jewish Bible because of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. May her memory continue to bless us all. We know that in her chambers hung the saying, "Justice, justice shalt thou pursue." That's from the Parsha of Shoftim, which we read tomorrow. And the Parsha of Shoftim focuses on that a society cannot be just if the system of law and the execution of legal sentences is not just. There is simply no way, and that the focus of a chunk of the Parsha is on the importance of having judges who are not corrupt and a system which is not corrupt in order to have justice. And it goes into a great deal of detail. So it seems appropriate that tonight we observe this commemoration, which is in some ways the perfect example of when a legal system is not just and when the judges are corrupt. It was legal what it was done to the Jews of the former Soviet Union. It was legal because there was a legal system set up to do the things that it did. Sometimes legal isn't morally correct. And this Parsha is all about the centrality in our tradition that legal must be aligned with that which is morally correct. That seems that it should be obvious, of course. And we in this country have been going through a lot these last few years, which have made us very anxious about that. That's for another drasha. But for tonight, we go into the story of August 12, 1952, with the lens of our tradition, which makes it so clear that law and morality must be aligned. So how did it arrive at a moment that this could happen? So many of us who are Ashkenazic Jews are, of course, descendants of Jews from what was, even before the former Soviet Union, Russia and Poland. So very quickly, and as many of you know, but to paint that picture, so before the Soviet Union in 1918, Jews lived under the empire, the rule of the Tsar. The Tsar was different depending on which Tsar it was, but it was not a system that was kind to Jews. And in the 1880s, Jews started leaving in droves as they could, and a debate erupted among the Jews of Eastern Europe how to respond to anti-Semitism, which was destroying the Jewish community economically and politically, and ultimately after 1881 with pogroms and violence. There were different answers we had in our community. One answer in the community that evolved was Zionism, was leaving to go to a Jewish state. And the Zionist answer in the time in Eastern Europe was that there could not be a resolution to anti-Semitism without a place of our own. That was one answer. Another answer was revolution, which was in the air in a big way. That the only way that we could deal with anti-Semitism was to overthrow the anti-Semitic Tsar and the anti-Semitic Tsarist feudal system and replace it. The revolutionaries were divided into many groups, but into two huge groups. One were the Yiddishists and believed that the revolution needed to be in Yiddish and needed to reflect Jewish values and needed to maintain Jewish identity, and those were the Bundists, for example. And the other stream of revolutionaries believed that we could only get rid of anti-Semitism by overthrowing even all religion and to blending with the revolutionaries of the Mensheviks and then the Bolsheviks, and to create an ideal society in which every human being was equal. It was a beautiful dream. The third answer to anti-Semitism was to just leave and to come to either the United States or England or South Africa, but to get out of Eastern Europe and to find a way to a country in which Jews could live freely. In very, very large categories, those were some of the responses to anti-Semitism. So many became revolutionaries, not just Bundists who maintained a Jewish identity, but became part of the larger revolution which ultimately led to the 1918 Russian Revolution, which did outlaw religion, and in fact outlawed Hebrew. And for a brief time, Yiddish was expansive. And for some of those Jewish revolutionaries who were still there, they saw the possibility of a celebratory Jewish culture being allowed to live, albeit without Judaism, without religion, but Yiddish poetry and theater and publishing companies could exist. Stalin comes in the 1930s, and in his deep anti-Semitism and his anti-intellectualism, not only did the famine in the Ukraine kill millions, including many Jews, but started targeting the intellectuals, many of whom, of course, were Jews. Many Jews stayed in the former Soviet Union because they couldn't get out. They didn't all fit into those ideological categories. And they suffered, as did many. And many of the Jews who became communists became active in the Communist Party, both in the Soviet Union and in the United States, seeing in the Soviet Union a society which was fighting racism, theoretically fighting economic injustice, and theoretically protecting Jews. But in the 1930s, as we heard, the purges were vicious. And not only millions of people died in the state really controlled drought and famine in the Ukraine in the 1930s, but thousands and thousands died in the purges, in the camps, in the various roundups that happened. And then World War II happened, and the Soviet Union was fighting Nazi Germany. Wow, that's complicated, right? Think about that. We don't often think about what that would mean for the Jews in the former Soviet Union. So now the Nazi Germany is the enemy, and in fact, many Jews from Western or Central Europe escaped into Russia to escape Nazi Germany. And during the years of the war itself, Stalin stopped the purges and stopped the persecution of Jews in the aggressive way of the 1930s, and in fact formed a committee that was led by one of the greatest of Jewish actors and directors, Shlomo Michoels, who became known as one of the greatest. He directed the Moscow State Jewish Theater, which was founded in 1920, right after the revolution. It was a great theater. He was well known as Tevye. He starred in the 1936 staging of Fiddler on the Roof of the Yiddish, Tevye der Milchiger, and he was Tevye and well known as a great actor, and he became chair of the Jewish Anti-Fascist Committee. In 1940, so the Jewish Anti-Fascist Committee was used by the Soviet Union to spread far and wide that it was good in the Soviet Union for Jews, and they came to the United States in 1943 to get American Jews to support the Soviet Union and the Soviet Union war effort. There's much to be said about this. I'm going through this very quickly for context. However, the war ends in 1945, and Stalin's hatred of Jews emerges without the enemy of Nazi Germany, and he begins in 1946 and 1947 rounding up Jews. They were accused of espionage, of being anti-state, of all these different fabricated things. And then in 1948, Shlomo Michoels was killed in a hit-and-run accident, his body run over several times by a truck. We now know, in 1963, the Soviet Union acknowledged that it was an assassination by Stalin. This happened to set the stage for what was happening at the end of the 1940s. In 1952, several Kremlin doctors were arrested for allegedly threatening to kill senior politicians. That became known as the doctor's plot. Guess what? 99% of them Jews. Stalin instructed that all the arrested doctors to be tortured until they confessed. There was a famous trial in Czechoslovakia in 1952. 13 senior Communist Party members, 11 of whom were Jewish, were accused and convicted of being a part of a vast Zionist American conspiracy to subvert the Soviet Union. And then we know this story, oh too well, from tonight's service. All these intellectuals, poets, scientists, writers, actors, musicians, and artists were arrested. They were kept incommunicado. We don't know what it was like for them, and we don't know anything about the so-called trial. In 1981, Elie Wiesel's book, The Testament, was translated from French to English, and I read it then in 1981 or 1982. Elie Wiesel has this book called The Testament, which very few people know about. But because in that period of my life I was deeply engaged in Yiddish, I read it as soon as it was translated to English. He asked the following question: what would have happened if the greatest writers of our people, if we had some description of the trial and what was going on from their perspective? So he wrote a fictionalized account, fictionalized because all the records were destroyed by the Soviet Union, but he tried to imagine. And word is that Itzik Pfeffer, who was one of the greatest of poets, who was a member of the Communist Party, and he became, in his earlier years, up until the time he was arrested, he was quite an advocate for the Soviet Union, a huge voice for communism. Word is it that at the trial and while he was arrested and before he was executed, he recanted his communism, and he regretted that he had rejected the Judaism of his father. So Elie Wiesel, and indulge me to let me read a little bit from this book, The Testament. He imagines a fictional character, but based on Pfeffer, but a fictional character. He doesn't try to pretend he knows what any individual said. It's a fictionalized version. Would write to his son from the prison. Grisha, my son, I am interrupting my testament. The whole book is the testament, the last will and testament of the writer. I am interrupting my testament to write you this letter. When you read it, you will be old enough to understand it and me. But will you read it? Will you receive it? I fear not. Like all the writings of prisoners, it will rot in the secret archives. And yet, something in me tells me that a testament is never lost. Even if nobody reads it, its content is transmitted. The call of the dying will be here. If not today, then tomorrow. All our actions are inscribed in the great book of creation. That is the very essence of the noble tradition of Judaism, and I entrust it to you. I am writing to you now because I am about to die. When? I don't know. 1 month from now, perhaps 6? I cannot know. It's night, but I don't know whether the darkness is in myself or outside. The naked bulb blinds me. The jailer will soon open the peephole. I recognize his step. I'm not afraid of him. I try to imagine you in 5 or 10 years. What kind of man will you be when you reach my age? What will you know of the interrogations and the tortures that have haunted your father? I see you, my son, as I see my father. I see you both as in a dream, and the dream is real. My voice calls your and his, if only to tell me the world of its ugliness, even if only to cry out together for help, to mourn together the death of hope, and to sing together the death of death. I am your father, Grisha. It is my duty to give you instruction and counsel. Where can I draw them from? I haven't made such a success of my life that I can tell you, I have the right to tell you how to guide yours. I wonder whether people wish to be saved or are welcome. I don't know the answers that will have to be given to the grave. Fundamental questions. The individual facing the future, facing his fellow man, had no chance whatsoever of survival. All that remains, Grisha, is faith. God. As a source of questioning, I would gladly accept him, but what he requires is affirmation. And there I draw the line. And yet, my father and his father believed in God. I envy them. I tell you so you will know. I envy them their faith, I who have never envied anything. Perhaps you will read my poems someday. They are a kind of a spiritual biography. Songs, they're simply songs offered to my father who I've seen in a dream. My father, whose name you bear, knew something, but he is dead. That is why I can only say to you, remember that he knew what his son does not. I have tried. If I have time, I'll tell you how. Let me at least tell you this. Don't follow the path I took. It doesn't lead to truth. Truth for a Jew is to dwell among the people, the Jewish people. Link your destiny to that of your people. Otherwise, you'll surely reach an impasse. Not that I'm ashamed of having believed in the revolution. It did give hope to the hungry and to the persecuted masses. But seeing what this revolution has become, I no longer believe in it. I am going to die within a month, a year, and I should like to go on living with you and for you, to have you meet the characters who are sharing my weight in this cell of mine. I must tell you in my testament I did plead guilty. Yes, guilty, but not to what I take to be the meaning of the charge. On the contrary, guilty of not having lived as my father did. That, my son, is the irony. I lived as a communist, and I will die as a Jew. Itzhak Pfeffer, on whom this character is most likely based, came to the United States with others in 1943. And he met Paul Robeson during a Jewish anti-fascist committee event chaired by Albert Einstein, one of the largest pro-Soviet rallies ever held in the United States. After that rally, Paul Robeson and his wife befriended Pfeffer and Michoels. 6 years later, in 1949, this is an amazing story, there was a celebration of the birth of Alexander Pushkin. Robeson went to the Soviet Union, as he did several times, to sing there. In America, there had been the question, what's happened to Itzhak Pfeffer? What's happened to the others, to Michoels? There was talk in intellectual circles that they had been killed, but nobody knew. There was absolute silence from the Soviet Union. So Robeson, who was treated as royalty by the Soviet Union, in a way to show up the racism of America, asked to see his old friend. He was told by the Soviets that his friend was on vacation in the Crimea. They didn't want to bring Pfeffer to see him because he was so emaciated. So the story is that they took Pfeffer to a hospital, fed him, got him fatted up, and while Robeson waited in Moscow for Pfeffer to come back from his vacation, Pfeffer was brought to him finally. The two men met in a room that was under surveillance, and both knew it. Pfeffer knew he could not speak freely, but Robeson reported that when he asked Pfeffer how he was, Pfeffer drew a finger across his throat and motioned with his eyes and his lips to his American comrade these words, "They're going to kill us," he said. "When you return to America, you must speak out and save us." During his concert, which was broadcast across the entire country, Robeson publicly paid tribute to Pfeffer, singing the Vilna partisan song Zog Nish Kein Mol in both Russian and Yiddish. So tonight, what we are doing is exactly what Elie Wiesel asks of us, to remember, to forgive those Jews who tried so hard to figure out and made choices. Some of them were communists, some of them were not. All of them were great artists. Tzedek, tzedek tirdof. I'm struck by how that phrase of pursuing social justice could get so perverted by those communists who believed in a great dream, but it became so corrupted. The death of these Jewish artists and poets was one of the last things, ironically, that Stalin did. He died a year later in 1953, and the Soviet Union rehabilitated all of them a few years later. But their death, we remember, but most of all, we remember what they created. We remember their poetry, their art. Ich bin a Yid. I am a Jew. Itzik Pfeffer's poem. We now sing to music that brings his words, Ich bin a Yid. It's on page 8 of the program. Ich bin a Yid. I am a Jew.
Der Wein von teures dicken Deue hat mich gestarrt in Wanderweg. Die Beise schwer von Pein und Treue hat nicht vernichtet mein Verweg. Mein Volk, mein Gläuben und mein Blehen, sie hat mein Freiheit nicht geschmäht. Von unter Schwert hab ich geschrien, ich bin ein Jid, ich bin ein Jid. Der kluge Knetsch von Rebbe-Kive, die Chochme von Jeschaias Wort, haben genährt mein Durst, mein Liebe, und sie mit Hass zu neu gebohrt. Der Schwung von Maccabeer-Helden, Bar Kochmes Blut in meinem Sitz. Von alle Scheiters pfleg ich melden, ich bin ein Jid, ich bin ein Jid. When euch zu picken ist, die Solim, wo's gerät, qualm scheun vor mir, weil ich unter die Freie fallen, noch nachher so nachher. Will meine Weingärtner verpflanzen und von mein Gäubel sein der Schmied. Ich will noch auf die Sonnenskäfer tanzen. Ich bin ein Jid, ich bin ein Jid, ich bin ein Jid, ich bin ein Jid.
Thank you so much for that. May we, in our lives, bless the memories of all those who died. Page 140, please stand if you are able for Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שברא אותנו ונפח בנו את נשמת חיינו, שהעמיק אותנו בלימוד תורתו, וקידשנו במצוותיה. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב עיקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובהי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
Please be seated. And for the season of Elul, as we lead into Rosh Hashanah each day, we say Psalm 27, Achat Sha'alti, one thing I ask. We pause as we do in every service to remember those whom we've loved and lost, either in recent days or in this season in years past. We extend our deepest condolences to CBST member Allison Drew Klein on the death of her mother Myrna, who died on August 8th. To CBST members Pamela Walter and Carol Zoroff on the death of Pam's mother, Carol Walter, who died on August 11th and will be buried on Monday. We extend condolence to all those who are suffering from the deaths and their families from the COVID-19 pandemic. As of today, the total number of deaths are 33,636 in New York City, 54,405 in New York State, 636,369 in the United States, and 4,354,025 worldwide. We mark the yahrzeits in this coming week of CBST members Ron Charles, Hilliard Goldman, Fred Gottschalk, Margot Carl, Morris Moniz, Harold Sadowski, Ronald Scher, and William Zenzel. Family and friends, Miriam Altwerger, Wayne Benoff, Bert Brown, Bonnie Eppenstein, Stephen Feynman, Murray Goldstein, Jeffrey Greenbaum, Neil Kessman, Thelma Kudler, Bert Kurtz, Eli Liebman, Miles Ludvigsen, Rachel Mizrahi, Lee Moffitt, Ephraim Podolsky, Betty Rabinowitz-Sheffer, and Judith Waller. The names of those who died on August 12th, 1952, murdered by the Soviet Union. Peretz Markish, 1895 to 1952, Yiddish poet. David Hofstein, 1889 to 1952, Yiddish poet. Itzik Pfeffer, 1900 to 1952, Yiddish poet. Leib Kvitko, 1890 to 1952, Yiddish poet and children's writer. David Bergelson, 1884 to 1952, novelist. Solomon Lazovsky, director of the Soviet Information Bureau and Deputy Commissar of Foreign Affairs. Boris Shmulevich, medical director of the Botkin Clinical Hospital. Benjamin Zuskin, assistant to and successor to Shlomo Michoels as director of the Moscow State Jewish Theater. Joseph Yuzefovich, researcher at the Institute of History, Soviet Academy of Sciences, trade union leader. Leon Talmy, translator, journalist. Ilya Vattenberg, translator and editor of a newspaper. Cheka Vattenberg Ostrovskaya, 1901 to 1952, translator. Emilia Tuman, deputy editor of the Diplomatic Dictionary. Two others, Solomon Bergman, fell into a coma after denouncing the trial and died in prison 5 months later after the executions. And the only survivor was Lena Stern, a biochemist, physiologist, and humanist, and the first female academician at the Russian Academy of Sciences, and she was the only survivor of the defendants. If you are observing a yahrzeit, or if it's you're in mourning, or if it's your custom to stand for the mourner's Kaddish, please do so, page 150. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah.
Amen.
V'alma devra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon uvyomechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'yimru.
Amen.
Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach li'olam almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei d'kudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiram bi'alma v'yimru. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru.
Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'yimru.
Amen.
May the one who makes peace in the heavens bring comfort to all who mourn here on earth, and let us say amen.
Amen.
And now for some announcements, CBST's president, Sabrina Farber.
I feel so tall when I'm here. I actually think we should have had something for Amanda. So next time when Amanda comes back, we'll have a little something so you can be on the same level. Shabbat Shalom, welcome to CBST. We're delighted to have you here with us tonight. both in person and virtually. What an amazing service. I'm just quivering from all that music, from all of that incredibly deep culture. How fortunate are we? Thank you so much to Baal Tefillah cantorial intern Sam Rosen, and to the incredibly talented Amanda Siegel, our beloved member, for sharing your voice, your deep learning, and your passion with us. Thank you to Joyce Rosenzweig, our brilliant musical director. And by the way, welcome back, Joyce. I want you to know that at least Sam is relieved that you're here, because last week, he was truly a one-man band. There was Sam, he had the guitar, he had the oud, he had a chair. Poor guy. I was in awe. But so he's glad this week that you're here to kind of take some of the burden off. Thank you also to Rabbi Sharon Kleinbaum for your service leadership tonight and for your inspiring words of Torah and history and Yiddishkeit, one of the many reasons why we love having you on this bima. Join us tomorrow at 9:30 for Shabbat morning services. Baal Tefillah will be cantorial intern Sam Rosen, service leader Rabbi Sharon Kleinbaum, and a devar from our member Ari Montz. And then you can join us for Havdalah at 9 p.m., which will be led by cantorial intern Sam Rosen. And don't forget to register for the Members Town Hall this Monday at 6 p.m. I know you think you already went to this town hall. You're looking and you're saying to yourselves, but wait a minute, I already went to a town hall about the High Holy Days. Well, guess what? We have some changes to share with you. So we're going to have a second one. And this second one will be Monday night at 6 p.m. You should all have gotten an email with registration information. If you don't, check with the office on Monday. It's very important that you're there. I know you'll have questions. We're ready to answer them. We appreciate your flexibility and understanding as we navigate these unprecedented times. Speaking of High Holy Day services, all the service information, including updated information, for registration and all the giving opportunities are on our website. Any questions, you can email highholydays@cbst.org. And as you know, for the time being, I feel like I should preface everything with, for the time being. For the time being, we'll continue to hold Friday night services in person, like we are tonight, and include a limited number of congregants. The services are open to all, not just members. However, the same COVID protocols remain in place, including pre-registration, masking, and social distancing. The registration link, as you know, will go live on Monday. I'm not committing to a time, and can be found on the CBST homepage. Shabbat sign up. And again, we live in tumultuous times, so please be prepared for last-minute changes. We do appreciate everything you do and bring to our community every day. We know it's like living with whiplash. We feel it, we know you feel it, and we're in this together as a community, and we will have a spectacular Yamim Noraim, I promise. So thank you for helping us build community as we continue to pursue Tikkun Olam. Shabbat Shalom.
Okay, who's tired of living in unprecedented times? Yeah, but who's happy to be in the sanctuary for the first time? Who's here in the sanctuary? Even with these limitations, doesn't it feel great to be here with a small number here, but we're trying to do it safely, and we love all of you on live stream, and we're just trying to figure it all out. Okay, so what do I do now? Sam?
We're gonna reprise the Yiddish is mein Lotion.
Okay, before I do the
Oh no, you're right. We have to thank the sponsors.
The sponsors, yeah. Right. Thank you, Sam. Okay, the sponsors. I have to find this. Here we go. The sponsorships for tonight. Alton Bader and Michael Goldstein, please celebrate Edith Golub's 101st birthday tomorrow, August 14th, 2021, by eating a piece of birthday cake. Okay, that's a good job. Lorraine Basic and Karen Missick, as we celebrate our 6th wedding anniversary in 38 years, 6th wedding anniversary, we remember the struggles of Edie Windsor and CBST that brought us to this day. Toda Rabbah, by Sharon Golub. Happy 101st birthday, Mom. Hi, Edith in Florida. Hi, Sharon. If there was an Olympic medal for 101 years of legendary love, kindness, and strength, you win the gold. You're my hero. Love, Sharon. By Linda Solomon and Bonnie Siegel, in honor of CBST clergy, staff, and congregation as we enter into Elul, preparing for the days of awe. May everyone find comfort in the daily recitation of Psalm 27. by Larry Kay, Bill Rosenblum, and Raphael Anschel. In memory of their mothers, I remember when this Kiddush sponsorship was when all of your mothers were alive, all of whom were born on August 10th or 11th, and all of whom contain Miriam in their names. Remembering Larry's mom, Ursula Miriam, born August 10th, Bill's mom, Esther Miriam, born August 11th, and Raphaela's mom, Muriel Susan, whose Jewish name was Miriam, born August 10th, by Brooke Mallory, Calvin Klein Hoffman, and Wen Bromfield. Thank you, everyone who donated and is supporting tonight's live stream. Now, Sam, what do we do?
Now we close our service with Yiddish is mein Lotion. A reprise of the last verse.
What page of the program?
Page 5.
I've lost my little outline. Page 5 of the program, a reprise.
The last verse.
Lob noch nicht verloschen, sehr Glied noch Glied. Yiddish is mein Loschen, Yiddish is mein Lied. Yiddish is mein Loschen. Yiddish is mein Lied.
יום השישי, ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם, ויחל אלוהים ביום השביעי, מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי, מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה, ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי, ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. סברי חבריי וחברותיי.
לחיים.
לחיים. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פרי הגפן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר חישנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחין לנו. זיכרון למעשה וראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת עם כל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. Kind of linked together.
All right, everybody reach out. Reach out. Reach out. Okay, here we go.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Ay,
Shabbat shalom, everyone. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.